It's another beautiful day for baseball in Los Angeles. And baseball podcast. Josh Schaefer and Blake Harris cover everything Dodgers right here on Inside the Ravine.
How's it going, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of Inside the Ravine. Joining me, as always, from the Ontario Reign headquarters, rocking a different, a different little fit today, Josh. We don't have an Ontario Reign jacket on. I guess once the season ends, that's all that. Summer baseball is officially here, which means it is time for Chatham Angler baseball, proudly displayed. So, How does it feel rocking that? When does the season start? Have they kicked off yet?
The season has already started. Their opening night game got delayed because of rain. So the next day they played, and the game was like 3 hours and 40 minutes long with a pitch clock. The final score was like 11-12, a walk-off on opening night, so that's cool. But Blake, what's really fun is at this time, at this exact time, 1 week from today, I will not be in Chatham, but I will be in Boston, so that's cool. And then by this time, a weekend, 1 day from right now, I will be actually getting ready for the Chatham Anglers Falmouth Commodores game at Veterans Field in Chatham. So we get to go see where Michael Busch was just an absolute fiend on the field. We get to see where Kyle Hurt, where his stomping grounds once were. Dodger fans probably don't know that name yet, but he's around. He's a pitcher. So we're going up there for a little bit, and it should be fun.
There's probably like most of the guys on the Dodgers roster were probably in the Cape Cod League, but Josh is just not going to mention any of them because none of them are important. The only ones that are important are the ones that he got to see at Chatham when he was there. So again, every Dodger player has likely stepped foot on this field that Josh is going to, but the only two that matter are Michael Busch and Kyle Hurt. So there,
and Corey Seager's brother, Kyle Seager.
There you go.
He was a Chatham. See, I'm trying to think. Like, remember Tim Fedorovich?
Oh, of course, GOAT.
Like in terms of actual like Rich Hill was a big one. Rich Hill was really good when he was up there. But like that's the thing. Like, there's so many guys who actually came through Chatham, but not many like big time Dodgers, at least to my knowledge. So that's kind of a disappointing one. But there's still some big name players that we saw. So last night, Andrew Vaughn was a guy that hit a grand slam against us. My first game there, really put the game away in the ninth inning. And that's how we knew, hey, don't pitch to Andrew Vaughn anymore. And what's funny is he played like 3 games until he left for Team USA and never came back. But he really just had to get in a grand slam against us and then bailed.
Well, I think Josh has pretty much answered what my trivia question is going to be later in the show, is if this up-and-coming Dodgers prospect was a Chatham Angler. Maybe he'll shock us and he'll say yes, but I feel like the answer is going to be no. So before we get to that and all the fun stuff to talk about in today's episode, make sure you guys follow the show on whatever social media app you guys use. We're on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Just search Inside the Ravine. You guys can watch the full episodes over on YouTube if that's your preference. You guys can also listen to the episode wherever you get your podcasts. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple, and we are also on the Odyssey app because Inside the Ravine is brought to you by Odyssey Sports. All right, Josh, a lot to get to in today's episode. We haven't recorded in about a week. We're not even going to touch up on the Philly series. We're just going to pretend like that didn't happen. Not going to touch up on the Reds. Not going to touch up on the Reds series. Pretend like that didn't happen. We can, though, talk about the White Sox series because for the first time in essentially forever, the Dodgers actually won a series. I believe this was their first series victory since they played the Nationals. So it's been a while since the Dodgers won a series. Didn't look like it was going to go that way. Last night, it looked like the Dodgers, they were down 4-0 through, the halfway point of the game. It looked like they were going to lose yet another series, but they came through. So, Josh, I quickly just want to talk about last night's game because, the night before, a disaster in regards to the bullpen. They blew yet another game. It was horrible. Yesterday, Michael Grove goes. He allows 4 runs, I think, in 5 innings. His third straight start allowing 4 runs. Things were looking bleak. And then with the bases loaded, Chris Taylor comes out to the plate with 2 outs. And insert Moneyball music. because he hit a game-tying grand slam. And honestly, not to be dramatic, Josh, but it really feels like that Chris Taylor grand slam might have been maybe one of the biggest moments of the young season up until this point.
Yeah, it was. And you know what? This game, I think, was obviously not the prettiest game from the Dodgers, but I think this was a really important win because this is a kind of win we hadn't seen from them really since what? I mean, it was the 12 inning other the Trace Thompson walk-off walk game. And obviously that was a while ago too against the Twins. Like that was
Middle
May
May, I think.
15th. Like, so it's the first kind of win the Dodgers have had like that in about a month. And it helped secure their first series win in 2 weeks. So they had lost three straight series until this point. So what I think is super important about this game is obviously it's not the prettiest game. I will say it's a pretty even game, I think, because both teams, I mean, the Dodgers had the walk-off hit from Freddie Freeman, but up until that point, it was 4 runs on 8 hits, no errors, and a handful of guys left on base for both teams. Not many timely hits for the Dodgers, other than obviously the walk-off and the grand slam to tie it, which is kind of what you want, right? But this was kind of a weird little grinded out game. You know, you tie the game with one swing. You had a couple of hits here and there. You've got some guys that were having some tough, 0 for 5, 4 strikeout nights like Jason Hayward. But then the bullpen comes in here after a pretty tough start from Michael Grove, to say the least. I mean, 7 hits, 4 earned runs, and they were all solo home runs. So it's kind of tough. It wasn't a great outing for Michael Grove, but then the bullpen comes in and just kicks into gear. And the bullpen in the final, 2, 3, 4, 5, in the final 6 innings gives up 1 hit. And the only hit allowed was Shelby Miller, who was the first guy to come out of the bullpen. So, I mean, just really impressive stuff from the Dodgers pen last night. 4 strikeouts from Evan Phillips, a couple of timely strikeouts, one big timely strikeout from Caleb Ferguson, and it was just the kind of bullpen outing that we haven't seen from the Dodgers in a while. And again, we keep talking about this. I said this on our last show. The Dodgers offense is good enough, right? This is an offense that is good enough to win the division. It's good enough to go on a playoff run. People might disagree. I really think that this is an offense that is good enough because you have your bad nights where you don't hit with runners in scoring position. For the Dodgers last year in the playoffs, that was the whole postseason series, which can't happen. But the fact of the matter is, like, your offense is going to have its bad nights. The problem is when your bullpen is bad every single night, you don't give your offense time. And that's what the Dodgers bullpen did last night, was they gave the offense time to get some timely hits and ultimately win the game. Because it's not like it was one home run that left the yard in the 11th inning. It was patience at the plate, getting the bases loaded with no outs, and then the big hit from Freddie Freeman to win it. The grand slam from Chris Taylor. Like, the Dodgers offense eventually got it done solely because they had the time to do so, and the bullpen was phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, you just kind of like break down the game in a couple different parts, and the fact that there were so many moments where it is like a massive win for the Dodgers. Obviously, like I said, you have the Chris Taylor grand slam, which ties the game, I believe, in the 6th inning, I want to say. But that was, again, where we've seen the Dodgers this season. Their offense is great because they hit a bunch of home runs. I think we talked about this in like the last episode, where they're the most heavily relied upon the home run team in all of baseball. I think like 52% of their runs come via the home run. But in that inning, it was just guys getting singles, getting on base, and then Chris Taylor hits the grand slam. And then, like you said, the bullpen comes in. They combined for, I think you said 6 combined scoreless innings. 1 hit was, allowed by Shelby Miller, which might have been like the first inning of work that he had. So the hitters went like 0 for 15, 0 for 16 to end the game. And then, like you said, the Freddie Freeman walk-off, which the walk-off hit was great, but it's the fact that they loaded the bases. They worked, each count. I think Mookie Betts had like a 13-pitch at bat, I want to say, right before Freddie Freeman. Josh, I know because the game went kind of late. Did you see this Freddie Freeman walk-off hit and what exactly happened? Because I'm watching the game with my girlfriend. We're just like, okay, like, come on, let's end the game. And Freddie Freeman hits it. And I believe it was Luis Robert who was playing center field. And he's just insanely shallow. I'm thinking, dang it, Freddie, you just hit like a routine pop fly. Like, this is not going to get the runner in from third. Because he's like maybe 15, 20 feet off the dirt. And he all of a sudden kind of just stops. And then I think even Joe Davis, I had to go back and listen to the call. Maybe Joe Davis was maybe thrown off. Maybe he actually wasn't. I just wasn't paying attention. But then you just see the ball land on the warning track, and I was like, oh, okay, this was almost a grand slam.
Yeah,
What a change of emotions. Yeah. What a change of emotions. Like I said, I thought it was a routine, just fly out. He didn't do his job. And it's like, oh no, he just missed hitting a grand slam. I mean, I guess, like, why bother if you're Luis Robert? Like, why bother sprinting to try to catch it, at the warning track when it's not going to make a difference? Even though I think it was last week in Cincinnati, I forget which game it was when they got walked off. I think it might have been Jason Hayward in center field where he just, like, hauled to the center field wall and tried catching a ball. Like, they would have lost anyway, but he tried making an attempt on the catch to just make sure Shelby Miller didn't allow a hit. He didn't get it. But, yeah, I thought this was a routine flyout, and it was almost a grand slam. So I thought that was kind of, funny. I thought it was a little interesting. But, hey, you get all kinds of walk-offs. And I will say, Josh, I am grateful that it was that, because walking off is fine and all, it's fun and all, but I don't know how you feel about this. A walk-off walk is just boring to me. Like,
I was at that Twins game. It's so lame.
It's just like, yeah, you celebrate and you kind of whatever, but at least a walk-off hit. Even this one, I think because, like, the bases were loaded, he hit it far enough anyway. They were kind of like, celebrating whatever, but I was like, at least get a walk-off hit or something. Do not get a walk-off walk, because like you said, when Trace walked it off with the walk, it's just a little boring. Just a tad.
Yeah, I will say, I mean, I think that's a hit either way. Like, even if Robert goes after it, it's a hit. He's playing in. Like, there's just no way that he's going to get to this ball in time. If there's one out, hell, if there's two, obviously if there's two outs, if there's one out, you might even go after it, because at this point, maybe you're not going to get it was Hayward on third, right? Or was it Chris Taylor on third?
I think it might have been Hayward on third to start.
So either way, like, you're not getting that guy throwing home. There's no way. You'd have to have the most unbelievable arm ever to make that throw from center field. But the thing is, and it's still a stretch, if there's one out, you can get all the way back to the wall and you make that catch and then throw it back into, like, second base even. But at that point, who's even going to be trying to tag at that point? Like, there's no point in going after it. So I just don't think he gets there anyway. But it was funny because watching it, it seemed like it was drilled, just like absolutely crushed. But then when you don't see him move for it, my first thought is this a pop out? And then my next thought is, oh, like, you can tell he's, like, walking off the field. Like, the game, like, it was far enough. But I wonder what it looked like in person, because I almost tweeted from our Inside the Ravine account, like, that did not play for television. Because, again, wasn't there. But I feel like the crowd knew. Like, the crowd knew that it was well over Luis Robert's head. But on TV, just the camera angles, you're like, and I haven't heard Charlie's call on radio last night, but I would very much like to hear it.
Yeah, there was one the other night. It might have been the ESPN game where Miguel Rojas hit, like, a fly out to left field, and the cameraman just, like, panned the camera up as if this thing was headed to the parking lot. And then you're thinking, holy crap, he just hit the hell out of it. This thing's leaving Dodger Stadium. And then the camera just comes down, and it's just the left fielder just posted up like 15 feet in front of the left field fence. Josh, one thing I saw on Twitter, I wanted to share this because this is absolutely incredible. There's some guy out there. Surprisingly, it's not me. I'm not this big of a degenerate. But someone out there did a same-game parlay for the game last night. Dylan Cease, 9 or more strikeouts. Mookie Betts to record a hit. Jake Berger to record a hit. Luis Robert to record a hit. Michael Grove, 4 strikeouts. All this guy needed for his final leg was a Freddie Freeman base hit, in which he got at the very end. And it was a $10 bet that turned into just under $800 because Luis Robert decided to just walk it off. So,
wow.
Imagine you win a bet like that.
That is because you think like you're sitting on the edge of your seat probably for multiple reasons, and then this ball gets drilled and you celebrate, and then you're like, wait,
wait a second, you're thinking it's a routine flyout?
I'll say this.
Who
though.
knows?
I'll say this: the camera work. The camera work on this home run was just tough because it kind of looked like a pop out, but the camera work on the Chris Taylor game time grand slam, unbelievable. There is nothing sexier than camera work on a home, than good camera work on a home run. Because if you're panning all up and it's like a wall scraper, you're like, all right. But then if you're panning up and you can follow the thing just 20 rows into the seats in the left field pavilion, I'm like, damn, that cameraman knew exactly where that ball was going. And obviously you and I are not professional cameramen, but we did take that wonderful class with Mr. Carl Lemon. And I'm pretty sure you and I had no idea how to follow.
I was just going to say, Josh, this is how do you know someone went to a sports journalism program, because we're talking about camera work. Yes, the great Carl Lemon. I think one of our buddies, Josh, was a huge fan of Carl Lemon.
Yes.
Really loved the guy. He talked very highly of his family and wanting to visit his house and, have a nice meal there with the family. But yeah, we were taught a lot of things in that class. I'm pretty sure we were taught camera work. Could we apply it all these years later?
That was the entire class. We were absolutely taught that. That was what the class was about.
Yeah, so, hey, there you go. Maybe Carl Lemon out there was watching and saying, no, they did a hell of a job panning up towards that one. So I thought that was a fun moment because, again, I thought it was a flyout. They got me. I'd been had. I also liked on the Chris Taylor Grand Slam, even Joe Davis knew immediately. He's like game-tying Grand Slam as the ball is hasn't even gone over the left fielder's head yet. And I'm like, I don't know, Joe. And I'm like, then it eventually made it way through. He's like, no, I'm calling it a game-tying Grand Slam, the second it left the bat.
That's why my broadcaster perspective, when I was doing baseball all the time, was you watch the outfielder, not the baseball. So I'll take my first glance at the ball, and then I watch the outfielder to know. Because if he's making a beeline for the wall, he's got to play on it. The outfielder knows. If he's watching it, it's gone. That's an easy tell is don't watch the ball, watch the outfielder. And Joe's obviously the best in the business, so he was confident in it and called it well. But you're right, he did call it probably 3 seconds before the ball landed in the pavilion.
It reminded me of the Jock Peterson walk-off home run from a couple years ago, where Jock hit one, he then turned to the dugout, pounded his chest, flipped his bat, and the ball ended up just barely scraping over the wall and was almost just a fly out. And I'm thinking, you just never know. You just never know when you're watching a Dodgers game at night. But I just want to give, again, Josh pretty much touched upon it, but I got to give it a shout out, though, just to the bullpen. Just because, again, Josh, the night before, the whole season before, they've just been so bad. They've been so bad. They stepped up. I mean, Shelby Miller, 2 scoreless innings. Yency Almonte tossed a scoreless inning with 2 strikeouts after, the night before, allowing a couple of runs. Evan Phillips comes in for 2 scoreless innings, is absolutely filthy, 4 strikeouts. Caleb Ferguson comes out. He's been really struggling as of late. He tosses a scoreless inning. This is the bullpen that we expected at the beginning of the season, not the one that's been historically bad. Josh, I don't know if you saw this the other night. It might have changed because of yesterday's dominance, but after, Wednesday's game, when the Dodgers allowed, I think, 6 runs in 2 innings, they had a collective bullpen ERA of 4.90, which, if the season would have ended that night, would be the worst since the team moved to Los Angeles. That's how bad the bullpen has been. But now, because of last night, we might be the second or third to worst. So we're moving up.
They're in the clear.
We're moving, baby. 3rd worst ever. Next week, 5th worst. Progressively climb. So, yeah, dominant showing from the bullpen last night. That was fantastic. But, Josh, I was getting a little concerned last night because the talk around town was the fact that tonight, Friday, was going to be a bullpen game. So the Dodgers use, 5 guys out of the bullpen. The bullpen is completely taxed. They're going to do a bullpen game on Friday. At least so we thought. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about a new guy who is going to be preventing the bullpen game, a guy you might want to remember for the future moving forward. All right, Josh, we are back, and this is a fun one because, as I mentioned, we all thought it was going to be a bullpen game today. That was the plan, and I guess this news broke at about 2 a.m., so if anyone was up at 2 a.m., they saw this right away. But for a lot of us, this is the news we woke up to, and that's that the Dodgers, again, according to reports, it hasn't been officially announced yet, are going to be calling up pitcher Emmett Sheehan from Double-A. Now, Josh, here's a fun trivia fact for you. In the Andrew Friedman era, they've only called up one player previously with no AAA experience. It's in the Andrew Friedman Dodgers era, and it's in recent memory. Would you like to take a crack as to who the lone player was that they called up from Double-A that completely bypassed AAA? And if you need another hint, I can give it to you.
I believe I already know who this is, and it was last night's starting pitcher, Michael Grove.
There you go. Ding, ding, ding. Someone knows their stuff, or they saw a nice little factoid on Twitter. But yeah, that's right. It's only now. Josh, help me out with this. I want to know if this is a technicality. So Emmett Sheehan, he pitched in Double-A this year, was fantastic. However, last week he got promoted to Triple-A, but
Yeah.
he never appeared in a game in Triple-A. So technically, they are calling him up from Triple-A, but he never appeared in a game. So he still technically qualifies in this Michael Grove little Hall of Fame section here.
Yes. So, and the reason why is there, from my understanding, there's never, or he's getting called up straight from Double-A. Like, sure. What is more impressive is if you have never even pitched in Triple-A. So yes, they're calling him up from Oklahoma City, but you're right. He got called up to OKC last week to play for the OKC Dodgers from Tulsa, but has not pitched a single game in Triple-A. What he's done in Double-A this year is nothing short of incredible. He has been absolutely bonkers with the Drillers this year. He is currently leading the Texas League with a 1.86 ERA. He's also leading the Texas League with 88 strikeouts, an opposing batting average against at 131, and a whip at .88. Now, what's actually funny is if Emmett Sheehan didn't exist or was having a slightly less awesome season, the person who would lead all of those categories is also Tulsa pitcher Landon Knack, who's second in the league with a 2.20 ERA. He's also second in the league with a .94 whip, and he's second in the league with a with a 202 batting average against. And then in strikeouts, he's like still up there, but not like all the way up there. Actually, Kyle Hurt's up there. We talked about him earlier. But like that's how good the Dodgers affiliates have been this year, especially pitching. Side note, OKC, I don't know if I've talked about this, but OKC's got like some absurd record this year. They're like 45-15. Nobody else is even close. But that's what Emmett Sheehan has done this year is you look at the guys who are like second and third in all those categories in the Texas League, and they're having insane seasons. Well, Emmett Sheehan has been even better than them. And an ERA at 1.86 through 53 and a third innings of work is remarkable for a 23-year-old in Double-A. Never pitched an inning, never thrown a baseball in Triple-A, and we'll see what he can bring.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers are absolutely insane. He's been lighting up the Texas League. Josh, you mentioned the numbers, but on the season, he's striking out 42% of the hitters he faces. So nearly half the guys that come up, he's striking out. If you take his average and put it over the course of 9 innings, he's averaging 15 strikeouts per 9 innings, which again is just absolutely ridiculous. He was named the Texas Pitcher League of the Month in May. Josh, he made 4 starts, pitched 25 innings, allowed only 1 run, struck out 44% of the batters he faced, and opponents hit .098 off of him. So
yeah,
it's like insane. It's like all the numbers that Gavin Stone was posting.
Like actually untouched.
He's been better. Yeah, it's remarkable. And the crazy thing is too is, as this was happening last night when there was kind of rumors about the Dodgers potentially calling someone up, I think myself and everyone included thought they're going to call up someone in AAA. Like I think Matt Andriese has been a journeyman who's been okay this year. He's like a 33-year-old pitcher. Okay, call him up, then DFA him, or maybe like an Andre Jackson, someone like that. Because I think Dave already said Gavin Stone's out of the equation. And we were texting about this morning, Josh, and I said I think Andrew Friedman last night when using his burner Twitter account saw my tweet in which I said, yesterday I said to promote the entire Tulsa Drillers pitching staff to AAA and get them reps ASAP. But at this point, I think calling them up now would be a better option than what the Dodgers are throwing out there. And like what you said in our exchange this morning, he saw your tweet and was like, I can't get flamed by this schmuck. And I think that's spot on because this is I was blown away by this because the Dodgers, they don't do this. They don't call up guys in the minors that are lighting it up, maybe if they're in AAA or if they're close, but they don't go, obviously they don't go to AA and get guys like this. So I was blown away that they're actually going with the move. They have a spot open on the 40-man roster, so they're going to call him up. And for Emmett Sheehan, he has a runway here because Julio Urias, he's still probably going to miss at least a couple of weeks. Noah Syndergaard, he's on the IL whenever he returns. We don't know. Michael Grove has made 3 starts since coming back from the IL, and he's allowed 4 runs in every start. I believe his ERA is still above 8. So Emmett Sheehan, I think at this point, Clayton Kershaw, Bobby Miller and Tony Gonsolin, those are the only three guys that have guaranteed spots in the starting rotation. If Emmett Sheehan lives up to the potential and lives up to the hype that what we've been seeing this year in Double-A, there's a chance he could lock up a spot in the starting rotation. And it just goes to show, Josh, this youth movement that they talked about all offseason, it's coming true because I think he'll make officially, I wrote this down somewhere, I want to say the sixth rookie that will make his debut at some point this year. I mean, we got Michael Bush made his debut, Bobby Miller, Gavin Stone, Nick Robertson, Emmett Sheehan, and then I feel like I missed, Johnny DeLuca, who made his debut last week. So yeah, 6 rookies making their debut 2 months into the season. And again, the Dodgers, they might have to rely on some of these rookies a little more than they were expecting to.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I do want to temper the expectations a little bit, at least for now. Yes, he's been absolutely incredible. You look back at what he had done in his career up until this point, even looking back to his time in college at Boston College. And look, like he didn't get to see a ton of action at BC, especially because he was there during the COVID year. The next year, they actually had some pretty good prospects on that team. Like that was a Sal Frelick team for people who are way into the draft, but his numbers back in college at BC weren't incredible, but he was drafted in the 6th round, so still pretty high. And then since he's been going through the minors, you've just seen the progression. Now, again, he has been remarkable in the Texas League and look, he's young. He's only 23 years old, but this is also a league right now where he is out pitching guys like Jack Leiter, Jackson Wolf, Emerson Hancock. He's outperforming all of these guys by a pretty wide margin right now. So yes, the talent level is, first of all, it's good in the Texas League. It's a little bit less than it is in AAA, obviously, and it's a lot less than it is in the big leagues. But same thing with Bobby Miller, who again, Blake, and we've talked about this before, the Dodgers said he was not ready. And he has been the Dodgers' best pitcher since.
Yeah, I think they were a little off on that. They were a tad off when they said he's not ready.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable what he's done through obviously just a couple games, small sample size. So I'm interested to see what Emerson, what Emmett Sheehan's, how long the leash is going to be, because the Dodgers need him to eat a couple of innings. I feel like I'm saying the same thing I did with Bobby Miller. I want to temper the expectations. I want to see how long the leash is. But if you can get 4 good innings out of him, I think that's good for now, right? That's all you need at this point. So hopefully your bullpen can help him out a little bit after he's done. But if he is going to stick around for a little bit, would love to see that, and obviously wishing him the best, because the ceiling right now is incredibly high for Emmett Sheehan.
Yeah, so I looked it up. He only has 137 innings in his minor league career. Not this season, in his minor league career, only 137. He's gone up the system really quickly. Like you said, was a 6th rounder just a couple years ago. I crunched the numbers also as well. So he's appeared in 12 games this year, has made 10 starts. I believe he had 2 outings where he came out of the bullpen in the 2nd or 3rd inning. And based on my calculations, he averages 4.5 innings per outing. So usually he's going for maybe 5. And again, I don't think the Dodgers are expecting him to come up and be Bobby Miller and go, 6 innings, something like that. If he can give them 4 innings and limit the damage, I think they'll take that, instantly. And Josh, I'm looking up his numbers, and it's actually insane because at Boston College, I mean, I guess the reason he was drafted so high was because of his strikeout rate. I mean, he was striking out 13, 14 guys per 9 innings, but his freshman year, 4.50 ERA, sophomore year, 8.16 ERA, and then his junior year, 4.23 ERA. So it's not like he was an absolute stud at Boston College. He's just kind of developed, turned into his own, and unfortunately, my trivia question is going to go absolutely nowhere, Josh, because not only did Emmett Sheehan not even play for the Chatham Anglers, the dude never even went to the Cape.
Well, that's what's interesting, is because he, the leagues that he was in, first he was in the Futures Collegiate Baseball League, which it's a college league.
That sounds worse than the Southern California Collegiate Baseball League. The future.
Yeah, the team that we work for doesn't exist anymore. Well, one of the teams we work for doesn't exist anymore. The other one's still kicking, but they're in a different league now, I guess. But yeah, he was in the Futures Collegiate Baseball League. And then in 2019, he went to the Danbury Westerners in the New England Collegiate Baseball League, which I've got a connection to them too. My broadcast partner for 2 years on Cape Cod had previously worked for the Westerners. But the NECBL is kind of like Diet Cape Cod almost. It's still in New England. It's in those states all in New England. It's just not out on Cape Cod. But like good prospects have played there. Like guys that we covered at ASU had gone there first and then gone to the Cape League. So like good league, you're still getting scouts around there. And then he went back to the Futures League again. So obviously you're still getting scouts at those leagues, but not even close to how many would come to a random Tuesday night game, in the Cape League. But again, like he played at Boston College with Sal Frelick, who was a first round pick, who was being heavily scouted while Emmett Sheehan was there. So suddenly Emmett Sheehan shows that he can have a pretty high ceiling, and he's got that strikeout rate up. He's got the tools that make him look appealing to scouts. And that's why, to me, that's why he gets drafted so high, is because it's kind of the same. It's the same kind of thing like you see pretty frequently. Like, wow, this guy like wasn't an incredibly huge name or anything like that. But he has all of the tools to be successful if you find somebody that can fine tune those things a little bit. And obviously it seems like that's been successful in the Dodgers organization, because you use a 6th round pick on him. And so far, I mean, again, not a ton of innings, only 137 in his minor league career, but he's impressed. And now he's getting his opportunity in the bigs, and hopefully it's the start of something. Maybe not now, maybe next year, maybe the year after, whatever. But this could be the start of something big for Emmett Sheehan, because obviously the Dodgers need him right now.
Yeah, I mean, again, watching his rise through the system has been incredible, and the fact that the Dodgers trust him enough to add him to the 40-man, give him a start tonight, and see where it goes. And yeah, Josh, before we wrap this up, just again, this Tulsa Drillers rotation, I know we've talked about it a couple of times. There was some tweet the other day, I couldn't find it right now, but they essentially took every major league starting rotation and took their average velocity from every starter, and the Tulsa Drillers have a combined number 1 velocity when it comes to speed on their pitches. I think they're like average is like 99 miles per hour, which would be number 1 in all of Major League Baseball. And this is a Double-A team. Like, this is their Double-A team. I mean, it's, like I said, years down the line, I mean, we're going to look back and go Emmett Sheehan, Kyle Hurt, Landon Knack, River Ryan, Nick Nastrini, Nick Frasso. Like, It's nuts. So, yeah, keep an eye on Emmett Sheehan. He makes his debut tonight. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you know what? Just a shout-out Tulsa again. You go down to the Texas League, which is, all those teams in Texas, Oklahoma, whatever. They have the number 1 team ERA in the league. They have the most strikeouts in the league by a lot. They're like middle in the pack in walks. They lead the league in whip. They have an opposing batting average against at 199. Nobody else in the league is even remotely close to that. Like,
it's
they're unbelievable, like what they've done this year. Yeah, and like a team ERA they have a team ERA of 3.45. The next closest is 4.27, and the team after that is 4.42. Like, it's just not close. Like, they've just been unreal this year from a pitching standpoint.
Yeah, Josh, I talk so highly about Sheehan's strikeout rate. That's actually the 3rd best on the Drillers, because he's averaging 14.9 strikeouts per 9. They got Ben Harris averaging 15.4, and then Kyle Hurt at the top, 15.6 strikeouts per 9. Like, it's just absolutely ridiculous, these guys. So hopefully they all start getting called up one by one. And again, I'd love to see it if by like middle of July, on a week-to-week basis, we're getting these guys that are called up and we're just testing them out, because, as opposed to trading a top prospect for a reliever at the deadline, call up Kyle Hurt. Maybe he's a guy that can give you a couple strikeouts. There's some scoreless innings. Ben Harris, all these guys that we've talked about, Nick Nastrini, River Ryan, the talent's endless. So it's going to be fun seeing his debut tonight. Hopefully he's rocking number 99 like he's been rocking in Tulsa, and hopefully things work out. And a month from now, the Dodgers rotation is Kershaw, Bobby Miller, Dustin May, Emmett Sheehan, and Tony Gonsolin, and Julio Urias, and all these other guys, because all of a sudden now your rotation isn't looking too bad. Your bullpen might not be looking too bad as well. So a fun time, Josh. Fun time.
Yeah.
Fun time.
And you know, it is funny because they have been really good this year too. They're 37-23. I believe they're first in their division, but they're second overall in the league. They're just one game out of first place. Their offense is very mediocre in Tulsa.
Yeah.
Like, they don't score a ton of runs. They hit a ton of home runs, but like batting average, OPS, like runs scored, like they're not very impressive at all. It's just the pitching has been that good. But also, while we're here, I did happen to look it up, and the Oklahoma City Dodgers are in first place in the PCL at 46-19.
Oh man.
The second place team is 10 games back, so
Jeez.
they're nasty as well.
Yeah. Every minor league affiliate has been absolutely ridiculous. So the Dodgers, they keep pumping these guys out. Hopefully they can keep a lot of them because there's a lot of talent coming. But that does wrap up this week's edition of Inside the Ravine. Again, make sure you guys find the show on whatever social media app you guys use at Inside the Ravine, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. You guys can also watch the full episodes over on YouTube. And again, we're on any sort of podcast app out there, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the Odyssey app, any, whatever other apps are out there. We don't know. There might be some random one we're forgetting, but there's something out there. Josh, before we part for the week, any final thoughts, final words?
Great Lakes is also in first place.
It's ridiculous, man. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. Come on. Can we also just, one final thing, just appreciate the fact that the Dodgers have 2 top 100 prospects that they got in exchange for Matt Beatty and Mitchell White? Because that's exactly what happened.
Yes, it is.
Cue Jesse Pinkman. He can't keep getting away with this because Andrew Friedman, you cannot keep getting away with this. But for Josh Schaefer, this has been Blake Harris. Thank you guys so much for listening. We really do appreciate it. And as always, enjoy the rest of your week wherever you may be.